Driving in Europe and America could not be more different. On one side, disciplined, smooth, and efficient. On the other, chaotic, unpredictable, and downright exhausting. So why does driving feel so much better across the Atlantic? European roads flow like a well-rehearsed symphony, while American highways often resemble a chaotic jam session. It is not just about road quality or speed limits. It is about mindset, culture, and a completely different approach to being behind the wheel. Whether it is lane discipline, safety standards, or the integration of public transport, Europe seems to have unlocked a driving experience that Americans can only dream of. How do European drivers stay calm even at high speeds? What makes their road design so effective without the sprawling lanes seen in the US? And why does driving there feel like less of a battle? The license to drive, earning it the hard way. Obtaining a driver's license in Europe is a demanding and costly process, reflecting a cultural attitude that driving is a serious responsibility. Unlike in the United States, where getting a license is often a simple rite of passage for teenagers, Europe requires prospective drivers to undergo extensive training, spend a considerable amount of money, and pass stringent exams. This process is not just about learning how to maneuver a car. It is about developing a comprehensive understanding of road safety and respectful driving practices. In the Netherlands, for example, obtaining a driver's license can take several months and cost upwards of €2,000. Learners must complete around 30 to 40 hours of mandatory driving lessons with a certified instructor, each session costing around €50. The theoretical exam covers not just basic rules, but intricate traffic scenarios, testing the driver's ability to make quick, safe decisions. Even after passing, new drivers often face a probation period where any significant violation can lead to immediate license suspension. By contrast, in the United States, particularly in Florida where I grew up, the licensing process is significantly more relaxed. At 15, you take a short written test to obtain a learner's permit. You are then allowed to practice driving with a parent or guardian without the need for professional lessons. After a year, you take a simple road test that usually involves basic maneuvers, such as parallel parking and making three-point turns. The cost is minimal, typically under $100, and the overall process is far less rigorous. This difference in licensing standards shapes how people drive. In Europe, the high cost and effort involved in getting a license mean that drivers tend to take their responsibility seriously. Losing a license after investing so much time and money would be devastating. This naturally leads to more cautious and disciplined driving. In America, where the process is quick and inexpensive, drivers may not fully grasp the importance of safe practices, viewing driving as an everyday activity rather than a skill to be respected. The difference in training also means that European drivers are generally better prepared for real-world conditions. They learn to navigate complex intersections, handle diverse weather conditions, and deal with urban traffic efficiently. In contrast, American drivers often lack this comprehensive preparation, especially in states where driving tests do not simulate real-life challenges. But once European drivers hit the road, why do they continue to maintain such disciplined behavior? There is another crucial factor at play: how safety itself is built into both the roads and the rules. Safety as a driving principle. In Europe, safety is not just a priority. It is a fundamental principle embedded in both infrastructure and legislation. Speed limits are not merely suggestions, but strict guidelines, with violations leading to severe penalties. In the Netherlands, speed cameras are common, tracking vehicles over long stretches to calculate average speeds. This method encourages consistent, cautious driving rather than sudden braking at camera points. Drivers know that maintaining a safe speed is an ongoing responsibility. Vehicle maintenance also plays a crucial role in safety. In Germany, cars undergo regular technical inspections to ensure they are roadworthy. These tests cover everything from brake efficiency to emission levels. A car that fails inspection must be repaired or removed from the road. In contrast, in Florida, there are no mandatory inspections, leading to older, poorly maintained vehicles still being used daily. When safety becomes the norm, driving naturally becomes a more enjoyable and less stressful experience. Drivers feel secure knowing that the vehicles around them are maintained and that speed regulations are consistently enforced. This environment fosters a sense of trust on the road, something often lacking in the American driving landscape. We've dived deep into the cultural, infrastructural, and policy differences between Europe and America to understand why driving feels so much better across the Atlantic. If you're enjoying this comprehensive breakdown, make sure to subscribe for more insightful content. Lane discipline. The European Code. One of the most defining characteristics of European driving culture is the unwavering commitment to lane discipline. In Europe, lanes are not just spaces on the road. They have a purpose, and that purpose is respected by drivers almost instinctively. The left lane, in particular, holds a special status. It is strictly reserved for overtaking, and lingering there without actively passing another vehicle is seen as both inconsiderate and potentially dangerous. This cultural norm is not just a suggestion. It is legally enforced, with significant fines and potential license penalties for those who misuse it. In contrast, American drivers often use the left lane as a general cruising lane, leading to bottlenecks and frustration. The difference in lane usage stems from the fundamental way driving is approached. In Europe, the road is seen as a shared space, and efficiency is prioritized. Maintaining lane discipline helps traffic move smoothly, reducing the need for sudden lane changes or aggressive driving. In America, however, driving is often treated as an individual activity. The focus is on personal convenience, and this mindset translates into a more casual approach to lane rules. I recall vividly my experience on the German Autobahn, where drivers adhered strictly to the principle of keep right unless passing. Even at high speeds, the discipline was impeccable. Once a driver overtook another vehicle, they immediately returned to the right lane, allowing faster cars to continue unimpeded. The result was a fluid, predictable flow of traffic, where even at 120 miles per hour, the road felt safe and controlled. Contrast this with my experience on a busy highway in Houston. Despite having 4 lanes available, the left lane was consistently occupied by slower-moving vehicles. Drivers would often linger, seemingly oblivious to the traffic building up behind them. Honking and aggressive tailgating were common, as frustrated motorists tried to push their way through. This chaotic situation made the entire driving experience feel tense and unpredictable. The consistency of lane discipline in Europe comes from both cultural practice and strict legal enforcement. In countries like France and the Netherlands, police officers actively monitor lane usage, and fines for improper use of the passing lane can be substantial. This continuous reinforcement ensures that drivers maintain good habits, knowing that breaking this unspoken code could result in penalties. But even with disciplined lanes, speed becomes a key factor in road safety. How do European drivers maintain safety when speed limits can be significantly higher than in the United States? However, this is only one part of the equation. The design of the roads themselves matters just as much. Road design, efficiency over expansion. European road design focuses on efficient traffic management rather than simply adding more lanes. This approach contrasts sharply with the American tendency to build wider highways in an effort to reduce congestion. In Europe, engineers prioritize smooth traffic flow through smarter design rather than sheer size, creating roads that naturally encourage safe and efficient driving. One of the most effective design elements in Europe is the roundabout. Unlike traditional intersections, roundabouts reduce the chance of severe collisions by forcing drivers to slow down while maintaining a continuous flow of traffic. In cities like Amsterdam, roundabouts are prevalent, even at busy intersections. They minimize stop-and-go movements and make it easier for cyclists and pedestrians to navigate alongside cars. In contrast, cities like Houston rely on sprawling highway networks, often adding lanes in a bid to alleviate congestion. However, these expansions rarely solve the problem. As more lanes are added, drivers spread out unevenly, leading to frequent lane changes and chaotic merging. The focus on expansion rather than efficiency often makes traffic problems worse rather than better. Traffic calming measures are another hallmark of European road planning. Narrower streets, speed humps, and dedicated cycling paths naturally reduce speed without heavy enforcement. In dense urban areas, roads are designed to accommodate not just cars, but also cyclists and pedestrians, encouraging slower and more deliberate driving. In Amsterdam, for instance, Intersections are carefully planned to give priority to bikes and trams, while cars move through at controlled speeds. This integrated approach reduces the risk of accidents and fosters a more predictable traffic environment. Meanwhile, in the United States, the practice of prioritizing car movement above all else often leads to pedestrian-unfriendly spaces and higher accident rates. While wider roads may seem advantageous, they can create a sense of unlimited capacity, leading to reckless driving behaviors. In Europe, where space is managed wisely and road design considers all users, the result is a more harmonious and safer driving experience. But how do these designs coexist with the sheer number of vehicles on the road? The answer lies in the unspoken rules. Courtesy on the road. While politeness can seem like a luxury on congested American highways, where honking and rushing are common, European drivers operate under a shared understanding that courteous behavior is essential for maintaining order and safety. This mindset fosters a calmer, more cooperative driving environment where everyone respects one another's space and rights. One of the most visible manifestations of this courtesy is how drivers let others merge smoothly and use signals consistently. In the Netherlands, for instance, it is common for drivers to slow down slightly to allow someone from a side street to enter the main road. Rather than seeing merging as a challenge or a competition, it is treated as a necessary part of keeping traffic flowing. Flashing headlights briefly or giving a small wave as a sign of gratitude is standard practice, reinforcing positive behavior. In contrast, merging in American cities often feels like a battle. Drivers speed up to close gaps, honk if someone tries to merge ahead of them, and rarely signal their intentions. This competitive attitude leads to frustration and sometimes even minor collisions, as drivers jostle for position without considering the flow of traffic. The tendency to rush or express impatience creates a chaotic environment, especially during peak commuting hours. The difference is not just behavioral, it is cultural. European drivers are taught that being polite is part of their duty as responsible road users. In Germany, signaling before changing lanes is not just recommended, it is mandatory and strictly enforced. Failing to signal can result in fines and penalty points on the driver's license. This legal reinforcement aligns with social expectations, making polite driving the norm rather than the exception. Another aspect of courtesy is allowing pedestrians to cross safely. In many European cities, drivers instinctively stop when they see someone waiting at a crosswalk. The understanding is clear: protecting vulnerable road users takes precedence. In America, however, drivers often speed through crosswalks or ignore pedestrians entirely, especially when rushing to make a traffic light. The stark difference lies in how drivers view their role. Europeans see it as their responsibility to accommodate others, while Americans often prioritize their own convenience. The benefits of courteous driving extend beyond just reducing conflict. When drivers show respect and patience, it leads to fewer accidents and smoother traffic flow. This positive cycle encourages even more polite behavior, creating a road environment where everyone feels safer. And when driving feels more communal, even shared spaces become less chaotic. This cooperative mindset is particularly important in areas where cars, cyclists, and pedestrians coexist. Shared spaces. Why cooperation matters. In Europe, roads are not just for cars, they are for everyone. Pedestrians, cyclists, trams, and cars often share the same spaces, and this coexistence demands a high level of cooperation and mutual respect. Unlike in the United States, where roads are primarily designed for cars, European infrastructure embraces a multimodal approach, blending various forms of transportation harmoniously. This inclusiveness requires drivers to remain vigilant and considerate. In the Netherlands, for example, cyclists are prioritized even on major roads, and cars are expected to yield. The understanding is clear. The road is a shared space, and every user deserves consideration. This expectation naturally fosters a more thoughtful driving style, where people anticipate the presence of non-motorized road users. A good example is the Dutch concept of woonerf areas, residential zones where cars, cyclists, and pedestrians share the same space with minimal traffic signs. Drivers automatically reduce speed and remain alert because they know that children might be playing or people might be walking directly on the roadway. This sense of shared responsibility makes such areas safe despite their unstructured layout. In Germany, too, shared spaces are common in urban centers. The integration of trams into regular roadways requires drivers to be constantly aware of their surroundings. Trams often have the right of way, and cars must yield. This system works because drivers are used to accommodating various forms of transport without feeling inconvenienced. In American cities, where car dominance is rarely challenged, shared spaces are less common and often feel chaotic when they do exist. Pedestrians might hesitate at crosswalks, unsure if drivers will stop, and cyclists often feel unsafe on the road. The lack of cooperation leads to tension and, frequently, accidents. The key to successful shared spaces is fostering an attitude of inclusion. Drivers in Europe understand that giving way to a cyclist or pedestrian is not just courteous but essential for safety. This mindset significantly reduces conflicts and makes multimodal traffic areas function smoothly. However, cooperation goes beyond the road. It's a community effort. In Europe, driving is not just about individual skill, but collective responsibility. Driving as a community effort. Driving in Europe feels fundamentally different because it is seen as a community responsibility rather than a solitary activity. The idea that everyone on the road has a role to play in maintaining safety and order is deeply rooted in the collective consciousness. This mindset influences not only how people drive, but also how they perceive their place in traffic. Community programs aimed at promoting better driving practices are common throughout Europe. In cities like Amsterdam, local councils regularly organize awareness campaigns to encourage safer driving habits. These initiatives include workshops for new drivers, safety briefings for cyclists, and public reminders about speed limits and pedestrian rights. This collective mindset extends beyond safety. It shapes public policy. Driving and public safety, a European priority. In Europe, road safety is not just a guideline. It is a deeply ingrained cultural expectation backed by strict policies and rigorous enforcement. This commitment to safety makes European roads significantly safer than their American counterparts. While the United States often takes a reactive approach, addressing road safety mainly after problems arise, Europe's strategy is preventive and proactive. The result is a driving culture where safety is seen as a collective responsibility, reinforced by comprehensive laws and consistent enforcement. One of the most noticeable aspects of European road safety is the strict enforcement of speed limits. In countries like France and the Netherlands, speed cameras are not merely a deterrent. They are a central component of road management. Unlike in the United States, where speed traps are sporadic and often used to generate revenue, European cameras monitor average speeds over long distances. This method not only ensures compliance, but also maintains smooth traffic flow by discouraging sudden braking when drivers spot a camera. Fines for exceeding speed limits can be substantial, with repeat offenders facing hefty financial penalties or even license suspension. Driving under the influence is treated with equal severity. In countries like Sweden, the legal blood alcohol concentration limit is set at 0.02%, compared to the more lenient 0.08% in most of the United States. Law enforcement conducts random sobriety checks regularly, and being caught over the limit can lead to immediate license revocation. The cultural attitude towards drinking and driving is equally uncompromising. Being caught is socially stigmatized, reinforcing the idea that responsible driving is a societal duty. Traffic cameras are more than just speed monitors. They also detect violations such as running red lights and reckless driving. In Germany, for instance, intersection cameras automatically record license plates of cars that enter a junction after the light has turned red. The data is processed efficiently, and fines are mailed to the offenders without delay. This system not only deters violations, but also ensures that the rules are applied fairly and consistently. One of the most stringent safety measures in Europe is the rigorous vehicle inspection system, especially in Germany. Known as the TÜV inspection, it is mandatory for cars older than 3 years and must be renewed every 2 years. The inspection covers brakes, emissions, safety features, and general roadworthiness. Failing this inspection means the car cannot legally be driven until the issues are fixed. In contrast, some states in the United States, such as Florida, have no mandatory inspection at all, leading to a higher number of poorly maintained vehicles on the road. These safety protocols significantly reduce accidents and fatalities. In fact, the European Union has seen a consistent decline in road deaths over the past 2 decades, while the United States has struggled to achieve similar results. The European focus on policy-driven safety is not just about imposing rules. It is about fostering a culture where safe driving is the norm. Drivers are not just complying to avoid penalties. They genuinely understand the importance of maintaining safety for themselves and others. Beyond safety, European driving culture has a profound environmental impact. The commitment to reducing emissions and promoting sustainable transport has transformed the way cities are designed and how people move within them. Environmental considerations, cleaner driving. Environmental consciousness is at the heart of European driving policies. While safety remains a priority, reducing the environmental impact of transportation is equally significant. European governments have implemented a variety of measures to ensure that driving does not just become safer, but also cleaner and more sustainable. This commitment to environmental stewardship is reflected in both policy and public attitudes. One of the most effective strategies is the use of incentives to encourage the adoption of electric vehicles. In countries like Norway, more than 50% of new car sales are electric, thanks to substantial tax breaks, free tolls, and even reduced ferry fares for EV owners. In the Netherlands, electric cars benefit from lower road taxes and exemption from registration fees. These policies make EV ownership financially attractive and environmentally responsible. In contrast, the United States has been slower to implement such incentives at a national level, leading to a slower rate of EV adoption. Low-emission zones are another innovative measure widely adopted in European cities. Places like London and Paris have designated areas where only vehicles that meet specific emission standards can enter. Older, more polluting cars are either banned or subject to significant charges. This policy has dramatically improved urban air quality and reduced health issues associated with vehicle emissions. American cities, however, have been slower to adopt similar measures, partly due to political resistance and the cultural attachment to older, more powerful cars. Europe has also embraced the concept of car-free city centers. Amsterdam, for example, prioritizes cycling and pedestrian zones, actively discouraging car use within its historical core. Public transport networks are seamlessly integrated, making cars unnecessary for most daily commuting. This approach contrasts sharply with cities like Los Angeles, where urban planning remains heavily car-centric, and public transport is often underfunded and inefficient. The bike-first approach seen in cities like Copenhagen and Amsterdam is not just a lifestyle choice, but a result of deliberate urban planning. By providing safe, extensive cycling infrastructure, these cities reduce both traffic congestion and pollution. In the United States, cycling infrastructure is often an afterthought, with bike lanes that are disconnected or poorly maintained. Public attitudes towards cleaner driving also differ significantly. In Europe, environmental consciousness is widespread, and policies promoting sustainable transport generally receive strong public support. In contrast, in the United States, debates over reducing car dependency often become politically polarized, with some viewing it as an infringement on personal freedom. As Europe focuses on cleaner transport, the political landscape adapts too. Government policies are not just about managing cars, but about shaping public attitudes toward responsible and sustainable mobility. Political and social repercussions. Driving policies that shape behavior. European driving policies are not just practical measures. They are political statements reflecting societal values. Governments actively shape how people view mobility, often prioritizing public safety and environmental sustainability over personal convenience. This contrasts with the American approach, where driving freedom often takes precedence over regulation. One clear example is London's congestion charge, implemented to reduce traffic in the city center. Drivers entering the zone during peak hours must pay a daily fee, which funds public transportation and reduces emissions. Initially controversial, the policy has become widely accepted as residents recognize the benefits of reduced congestion and cleaner air. Similar initiatives are spreading across Europe. In Paris, car-free days and restrictions on diesel vehicles aim to cut pollution levels. Political debates around these measures focus not just on practicality, but on what kind of city residents want to live in. One dominated by cars or one designed for people. Reducing car dependency also sparks debates about urban identity. Cities like Berlin and Amsterdam have embraced public transport and cycling as essential components of daily life, while some American cities struggle with the concept, fearing a loss of personal autonomy. Public support for green initiatives varies significantly. In Europe, where climate change awareness is high, policies like low-emission zones and expanded bike paths are generally well received. In the United States, however, similar initiatives often face opposition from those who see them as restrictive or economically damaging. While governments push for change, the economic effects are far-reaching. Policies that reduce car dependency not only change how cities look and feel, but also impact local economies and public health. The economic impact: how safer driving saves money. Safe, disciplined driving cultures do more than reduce accidents. They save money on a large scale. Lower accident rates mean reduced insurance premiums for drivers and fewer medical costs for public health systems. In Europe, where road safety is a public priority, the economic benefits are significant. Insurance premiums in countries like Sweden and Germany are comparatively lower because accidents are less frequent. Moreover, when accidents do occur, they are often less severe due to strict speed regulations and well-maintained vehicles. Efficient road use also supports economic productivity. In cities like Zurich, disciplined driving and reliable public transport mean less time spent in traffic, translating into economic gains. In contrast, American cities with high congestion suffer from lost productivity and increased pollution, raising public health costs. And as the economic advantages become evident, one question remains: can the United States replicate this success? Driving in Europe isn't just about better roads, it's a mindset shaped by discipline, safety, and community responsibility. As America grapples with its car-centric culture, could it learn from Europe's approach? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe for more global perspectives on modern life.